What is going on, everybody? It is Alex coming back at you with another video, and today we are doing yet another mock draft, one round, no trades. This time, I am going to be doing it solely off of what I think I would do. And it's not completely realistic. It's not completely based on my board. Actually, it is completely based on my board. So, bear with me. I'm going to have different opinions than you guys, and you guys are going to hate some picks. You guys are going to love some picks. Some of these players that you love will fall probably to your teams, and I am not saying this is a realistic mock draft. This is simply what I would do if I knew the entire NFL went off of my board. So let's kick right into this. Let's have a good time. Again, I'm going to be wrong. That's just the truth. And I'm going to try to still frame this from the mindset that I want to follow the system and the scheme. I just don't really want to say, oh, well, it's likely that Will Levis will go in the top 3, so I'll go Will Levis here. That's not my game, but it's going to be a little bit hard to curve my mind away from being realistic, so you never know. It might sneak in and cause a little bit of hectic. What the hell am I saying? It might cause some shit to go on in here, but without further ado. Again, no trades, just because I want to see, with my back against the wall, what I would do, because I would love just to trade out with the Bears. I could end up factoring in a trade with the Bears. Of course, I don't think that there's a talent in this class that I would spend multiple ones to move up for. I really wouldn't. So, to be honest, if I am sitting there and I'm the Bears, it's like, well, I can kind of sit, or like if I'm any other team except the Bears, it's like, I don't really need to pay the price to move up. So for me, based on my board, I have Will Anderson as the highest, but you guys see the amount of edge rushers on my board right below my face. And I think that defensive interior is way less plentiful in this draft. So for me, I'm going to go after Jalen Carter. Again, no trades, because also, even if there were, I would not be trying to trade up to the number 1 pick if I am any of these teams. I don't really think that's necessarily that big of a deal. Maybe the Panthers. Panthers are the team that I would move up with. But if I'm the Bears, then it's like you are kind of losing out on generational talents. The pick compensation is also really convoluted. So we'll see about that. I will actually make a trades one tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. And we have a lot of 7-round mock drafts coming your way. I already have the Lions one recorded. The Raiders one is on the way as well, so stay tuned because it's going to be fun. But at pick number 2, if I'm sitting here and I am owning the Texans. So if I'm D'Amico Ryans, if I am sitting there, I'm telling the GM what the fuck's up. Casario, kiss my ass. I'm definitely looking at Bryce Young. I'm also looking at Will Anderson. And I know that I kind of want to just hit on the best player available. I don't really feel confident that Bryce Young is going to be a superstar because of his size, even though I think he is by far the best quarterback in this class. I don't really have that much faith in these guys either, to be fair. So, I want to change it up a little bit. What if D'Amico ends up going away from that quarterback pick? He got a 6-year deal. He knows the value of a high-end edge rusher. I'm going to test this out. And I know you guys are not going to like it. Again, I totally understand that. But I'm going to do what is right based off of what I would do sitting at that spot. I know that I'm willing to build a team before dropping a QB in. And also, I have a weird feeling there's going to be a QB here at 12. But pick number 3, that's the whole entire reason I did it, because it is a cheap option for me to go after Will Anderson here at pick 3. All the QBs are on the board. This is one team that does not need it. But if I want to go based on my board, I still have my number 2 player in the class on the board, and he fits the Gannon scheme like a hand-in-glove fit. I also am going to be taking a lot of corners in this mock draft, so I think that is going to be best. Again, no trades. Absolutely, if there's a trade, I'm trading my ass out of here and getting as many picks as possible. But that's just not the case. Joey Porter is my number 2 player in the class. I think he's an absolute freak of nature. He has great arm length. He's going to be running the 4.4s. He has unbelievable field awareness. He is Sauce Gardner, but zone coverage instead of pure man. Slightly worse in my opinion, though. I did have Sauce graded at 90 versus Joey at 85 or 86. So there is a little bit of discrepancy right there. Pick number 4. I think this is the perfect spot to go a QB. But again, I am going to factor in system. Because again, there's no real reason for me to do it on a blank plate or a blank scale, because you built the rosters for your systems as well. It doesn't make sense for me to start fucking that up. But I do think quarterback with the guys on the board is the best thing to do. And I think Gannon can handle Bryce Young. I mean, it feels like it would be a good move for him. But, I mean, he is the best quarterback to me by a good margin. I have CJ Stroud at 16, Will Levis at 20, Anthony Richardson at 21, with Bryce at 4. So I am going to go after Bryce. He also is very mobile. I do trust Gannon to be able to get him on the move. We saw how Jalen Hurts was able to make a lot of his legs. I would try to limit that a little bit, and I hope Gannon doesn't have that like excitement to why am I saying Gannon? Steichen's dumbass. Okay, well, Steichen is used to using Jalen Hurts' running ability. There you go. There's idiot move number 1 from me today. But I know that he's able to use mobility well. I hope he can just make sure that he understands that Bryce Young is not squatting 600 pounds. So if he's able to do that, I think he'll be perfectly fine. Again, in a trades mock draft, I would absolutely trade down and just be like, hands off. Let's just kick back and enjoy this. And, you know, we can get someone like AR who would be a little bit better of a fit for Steichen, in my opinion. Pick number 5. So, like, Will Levis is a hand-in-glove fit to the Waldron system. I think that it makes sense to go after him realistically. But I do have CJ Stroud higher. Looking at other players I would consider, I just have so many edge rushers in this class, I don't need to take one here. That's my thing. I always take them because I do know if it's not Will Levis or CJ Stroud, it's going to probably be a defensive line pick. But based on my board, I have so many dudes who are just kick-ass players. So I personally wouldn't go after that route. I know that Geno Smith is, I believe, 32. Yes, it's not that old. But if you're looking for someone to be your true franchise quarterback, you kind of want someone who has a little bit more room for development, a little bit more time in case he ends up being that franchise guy at literally probably a fifth, 20% of the cost. So for me, at this point, I would go CJ Stroud. If he gets his legs working, we saw what he can do. He just doesn't look comfortable using his legs yet. And I trust him to throw the ball to CJ. Why do I want to say CJ Stroud? I trust CJ to throw it to DK. And, I do like the ball placement on his high-level throws. I just want that consistency to boost up. If I am sitting here at number 6 for the Detroit Lions, I mean, I want to address that corner position really badly, and I know I'm going to be taking corners galore because I love the corners in this class. I think Emmanuel Forbes and Devon Witherspoon are just, like, they're perfect fits because, again, I personally have Devon lower than Emmanuel Forbes by a good margin. But that's not because Devon is bad, not remotely. I'll scroll down so you guys get to see a little bit more. I actually end up loving Emmanuel Forbes, and there are pictures of him from his training academy. He looks like he's put on 15 pounds of muscle. If he can still test out at the speed that he does, he very well might be inching in on pure corner 2 for a consensus in the draft, because I think he is my corner 2 at the moment. I just think he's awesome. I really do. So you guys might not like how high he's going. You guys might want Devon Witherspoon. And to be fair, it does make sense. He is a really good man corner, and he does fit with Kirby Joseph back there. But I am going purely off of my board. Oh, it's going to piss a lot of y'all off. I already know it. Again, this is off my board. Realistically, Devon Witherspoon would be the better pick. But I'm going to go Emmanuel Forbes here. But for the Raiders, I don't think Will Levis fits the system. I don't. I look at the quarterbacks that have had success with Josh McDaniels, who you can't get rid of. And they're distributors. There are people who are they're quarterbacks who are safer with the ball. They don't have that big play ability. Tom Brady, Jimmy G, like those are the guys who have been most successful. Mac Jones. So I am not going to put Will Levis in a situation where he's pretty much guaranteed to bust, because that's kind of why Derek Carr is not there. And I'm not really going to put the Raiders in a worse position because I think you guys deserve better. And this is where I feel comfortable going after someone like Devon. I believe he is my corner 4 right after Jalen Jones. So, like, there is some high upside with Devon Witherspoon. I really like him. I just say slow your roll. And I do think corner is probably the biggest need for me besides a QB. And I just don't think AR, again, realistically, you guys are looking at AR. But I don't think AR solves your problems. I don't. So I'm going to go Devon Witherspoon here. I do think that is the best move for the franchise. I'm a big fan of these DBs. If it's in any other class, I think Devon Witherspoon would have been corner 3 or corner 4 last year for me. Like, I was high on Kyrie Elam. So he pretty much is up there with Derek Stingley in my eyes. And he's there with a lot of you guys as well. Pick number 8 for the Falcons. You know, I might be going after a QB at this point just because I'm not a huge fan of Desmond Ridder, but I do understand the practicality of going after a high-end edge rusher because I mean, I know there might be a dude there in the next round, but I'm also very high on edge rushers in this class. Not many of the ones that you see listed, but I mean, QB is just, it's the right thing to do because you don't really have a future option. But I also kind of don't believe that Anthony Richardson or Will Levis are going to radically change your teams. So you're seeing from me, I obviously do this all live. I'm actually going to go after Tyree Wilson or Myles Murphy. I have Myles Murphy higher, so I'm going to stick to Myles. I think Tyree might be a better system fit, but I want to see what Myles can do because I've seen that number 1 overall pick potential in him. Haven't exactly seen that from Tyree. There's a lot more to work on, so I would be holding back on that. So at pick number 9, I know Frank Reich is going to do the best with the guys who could potentially be the worst. Those are the big armed, kind of the howitzer, the gunslinger type, right? Carson Wentz looked his best with Frank Reich. So I trust Will Levis and Anthony Richardson to be both good fits. And I have them essentially tied. You see it right there. Will Levis at 20, Anthony Richardson at 21. Anthony makes some stupid ass plays. Will Levis does too. Anthony is younger. He has worse plays, but I do think that it's mechanically based. And I've been seeing a lot of videos and his mechanics look better. So I'm actually going to give the nod to Anthony Richardson here over Will Levis, kind of going against my board, but I did have them tied because, you know, they're both gunslingers. I just think Anthony Richardson is the most powerful arm in the class. So I think they would be a really, really good fit. The Eagles at 10. So it's tough. It's tough at this spot. Again, no trading out. I do think a corner would be a very, very wise move. But looking at the guys available, I'm not very high on anybody except Jalen Jones. And I do know that I could probably get another DB that I'm very happy with, like Deonte Banks, a little bit later on. So don't really need to focus on a DB at pick number 10, unless it's Brian Branch. Apparently, y'all corrected me, because he posted on Philly today, it's been real, Philly. Usually that means goodbye. Apparently on a podcast, he says he's still open to coming back. So it's not a guaranteed thing, but I also don't want Marcus Epps back. I think that, you know, that other safety role should be open. And Brian Branch should be a guy who, in my opinion, can definitely fill that. He's a little bit lower on my board. Where is he at? I'm trying to find him. Where the hell did I put him? Oh, he's at 18. So he's not that much lower. I think that's the best move for the team, personally. Kelsey looks like he's coming back. It looks like Lane says he wants to stay for a couple more years, so no more offensive line rumors in the first. I think the best move would be go Brian Branch here. This is bullshit saying that wide receiver is one of the biggest needs. I know that wide receiver 3 could be it, but I mean, you can kind of get Paris Johnson in free agent or Paris Campbell in free agency. I think that's perfectly fine. I love the idea of Brian Branch on this squad being underneath Chauncey Gardner. Johnson, like, that would be the best in my opinion. Pick number 11, I right here feel comfortable with Will Levis. You're having, yes, not a proven commodity coming into the building, but you are having somebody who I think he could be Ryan Tannehill-esque with a bigger arm. And we've seen that Tennessee takes a quarterback that not exactly looked at favorably and put him in a position to be able to be a good game manager to win. I think if you can get Will to have the processor of a game manager, he has the arm to make the big enough plays, where I think it'd be a great fit for him to end up actually succeeding there. So that's a spot where I'd be willing to take a QB at 11. I know you guys aren't a big fan of it, and that's fine, but I think that it is ultimately best for the franchise to at least have that QB competition, and I do see Will as a really good fit for the system. Pick number 12 for Houston. So, man. See, this would have been a good spot for Tyree Wilson. We do not have a QB, but that doesn't really matter to me. Ultimately, I think I want to go after O-line at this point. I'm going to build up the trenches and then be able to drop into QB, get Derek Carr if you want to, like if I am the GM, I want to build the team and then drop in a QB. And I do think this team could be absolutely baller if you end up with guys like Will Anderson and Peter Skoronski, who I have very high on my board. So now my top 6 are gone. BJ Ojulari will be going eventually in this draft, along with the wide receivers. Pick number 13 for the Jets. You know how I roll. Offensive line. And my offensive tackle 1 is Darnell Wright. And he is not exactly ready day 1. I think Anton Harrison's a little bit more day 1 ready. But Darnell Wright has the size and the athleticism that no other tackle in this class has. And I think you have a good enough veteran presence there to where I'd be comfortable going with Darnell Wright at this point. I do that in my normal mock drafts. That's why I blend my board in with it. But I think that would be an absolute killer move. I got to get Tyree Wilson off the board. He's still super high on my board. It's just, again, I told you guys, I have a lot of edge rushers here. But for this spot, I very well might go Tyree Wilson. Again, this doesn't apply to the drafting history of the teams. I go by scheme, not drafting history. Tyree Wilson would be such a good fit. I would love Bill Belichick to get his hands on Tyree. That doesn't sound right, but you guys know what I mean. Other places I would go Quentin Johnston. I really like Quentin Johnston for this team because I do want a little bit more firepower, but I also know that this team is known for making a lot out of a little, and personally, I don't think you necessarily need to go after Quentin Johnston in order to make that happen. It's a very, very deep wide receiver class, very deep edge class as well, and I love BJ Ojulari and Felix a little bit more than Tyree, but that's because Tyree has that crazy upside, and I know this is a fit that I would absolutely dream of. Pick number 15 for the Packers. If I am choosing for them, remember, draft history does not matter. System matters, not draft history. I'm going to be going Quentin Johnston here, 6'4". I think he could be very DeAndre Hopkins-esque. That franchise guy comps him to Demaryius Thomas. So you do have a very, very nice foundation for your future with him as well as Christian Watson. So 2 guys, 6'4" or 6'5". That's going to be pretty nice. I think both of them are going to run, well, Christian Watson was in the 4.3s. I think Quentin's going to be in the 4.4s. Pick number 16 for Washington. If I am picking for them, I'm going to probably look at the offensive line. Probably. I think that's the right thing to do. That or corner. And I want to look purely on my board. I still got BJ Ojulari here. We took out Quentin Johnston, Felix on the board. Anton Harrison is short enough to kick into guard and be a long-term option at tackle, and he can play both sides. I think that's the best move based off of my board alone. So Anton Harrison it is. Steelers. Whew. I'm looking at offensive line for them. Again, I'm not very high on Paris Johnson. I don't like him nearly as much as the next guy by any stretch of the imagination. I think that, he's somebody that cannot handle power in the NFL. He can't handle power from Lucas Van Ness. That's the whole entire reason Lucas Van Ness is up here, is because he whooped the ass of Paris Johnson on a couple reps. Just going to be honest, if you only have power, you should be able to handle it, because it's not like he's having to guess whether it's power or finesse. He knows what it's going to be, and he continues losing that. He has issues with his anchor, which means you get pushed back like a motherfucker, and collapsing the pocket never is a good thing in the NFL. So Paris Johnson might not be even included in this mock draft. That is my opinion. I know there's a lot worse opinions out there, I promise you. But I do think offensive line would be the position I go to, or DB for the Steelers. I have Broderick Jones probably higher than any other tackle at the moment, and I do. So I think he can also kick into guard. He's 6'4". I like that versatility. It's the route that I personally would go. And Jordan Addison is another player I'd consider, but again, deep wide receiver class. Pick number 18. We still have my number 7 and number 9 and number 10 player on the board. For our pick earlier, we went after Emmanuel Forbes, who, again, I just love. I love to death. So for this one, I am considering an edge rusher, and that is BJ Ojulari. That is Felix Anudike-Uzomah. There are some dudes who I like in this squad, but again, I'm looking down the board and I'm saying, I could get Thule in another round. I could end up getting Keon White in another round. I don't need to spend this pick on this guy. Even though I'm going on my board, I know that I can get value. And yeah, based on the corners, I could have gotten Christian Gonzalez here. I'm not as high on Christian Gonzalez as many people. I have a cluster of corners there out of my top 32. But I think that the right thing at this point, given the sheer amount of corners, because we do have 2 second-round picks, we also have already drafted a corner. The sheer amount of edge rushers would be probably to get a kick-ass player for Ben Johnson. And I think that's where we're going to go with Bijan Robinson there at pick number 18. Pick 19 for the Buccaneers. If I am picking for them, QB is already all gone. RIP to that. I'm never going to be picking a QB like that in the first round. I don't have any first round tight ends. I do still think there are some good enough DBs to be considered here. Tyree Stevenson, Garrett Williams, Christian Gonzalez, Keely Ringo, all in that bunch. Same thing with Jalen Jones. I don't think Jalen Jones fits, so I'm not going to be going that route. Keely has issues, but he has a crazy athletic profile. Tyree Stevenson, though, I am going to show a little bit of love to him. There has been no all-22 of him for this year, so there is some concern there, but I think his frame at 6'2", 212, and he's going to be running a 4.4. I think he has as good of a foundation as Christian Gonzalez, and personally, I think he might be a little bit better. So definitely like what you have there with him. He also been training with guys like James Williams as well as Cam Kitchens, and both of those guys are absolute stud first-round picks next year, so he has a good surrounding cast. Pick number 20. If I am the Seattle Seahawks, now I'm considering Paris Johnson. Not because I think that, he'd be a great tackle, but I'd really be intrigued with him as a guard. Remember, we got CJ Stroud. This is one of his guys who protected him. And you have that tackle versatility. I would love to choose him as that guard role over any other offensive lineman in the class. Yes, defensive line needs to be addressed. We can get BJ Ojulari here, but again, I'm going to hammer this over and over again. We can get guys like Andre Carter, Will McDonald, Tuli Tuipulotu, Felix Anudike-Uzomah, guys who I have in my top 10 later on, just because there's so many of them, and we cannot always get offensive line. I'm going to be going Paris Johnson Jr. here to be able to play that guard role and then also be a really good relief option at tackle. Pick number 21, if I am the Chargers. I think that there's not much debate here. I do this anyways in my mocks. I'm going Jordan Addison, who I have in my top 10. Now we have only 2 players in my top 10. It's BJ Ojulari and Felix Anudike-Uzomah. Tough to see them going, but we'll see. Then the next one is Jalen Jones. For the Ravens, I'm going to be going Christian Gonzalez. I have him below Jalen Jones. I think he is faster, though, and ball skills incredible. I think that's a perfect guy for the Ravens to mold under Marlon Humphrey. Pick number 23. Now, this could end up being Jalen Jones, and I think it's going to be. I really like Jalen Jones. He's my number 17 player, and this is a team that could absolutely use him as a clamp down corner. I think, if he's able to get his athleticism up a little bit, you could end up seeing him be similar to Xavier Howard, and Flores is kind of used to that, so that'd be kind of great. Pick number 24. So the Jaguars, if I am the dude of the Jaguars, if I am running them, I'm really not liking the offensive line options right now. I love going offensive line for this team. I am considering going after a DB here in Clark Phillips. I think that he is extremely underrated. He's just an absolute baller, can play boundary DB as well. I think that's somebody who I believe belongs in the first round, and it's kind of disgusting that he is slipping. There are some plays where it's like, okay, you're not nearly playing as well as you should, but there's the majority of the reps are very, very, very surprising, and they are NFL level, and he's not afraid of going at the ball. I think it's somebody who lost a lot of his sparkle and deserves to go in the first round. Very good player. Pick number 25. Obviously, I want to go after a wide receiver if I am New York. There are running back options as well, because apparently Saquon is now scheduled to be an unrestricted free agent, which sucks, but I don't think that I would take one in the first. So looking at the guys available, I have Zay Flowers higher. Where did I put Zay Flowers? I put him at 22. I think Zay Flowers would be a great compliment here. He's also played on the boundary, so I think that'd be a nice addition. Jack Smith and Jigba, he to me is a slot receiver who will be running 4.5 to 4.6. So I think that Zay Flowers just brings a little bit more of that Antonio Brownness to him that I did see that as a former Steelers fan. Well, I'm a current Steelers fan, but as a only Steelers fan a while ago, obviously I watched a lot of Antonio Brown. The movement skills are very similar to him. On the low end, it's Steven Sims, and I still think Steven Sims is an absolute baller. So Zay Flowers is an A+ move for you guys. Pick 26. I mean, I think boundary corner would not be a bad move, and I want to go after somebody who has a high amount of upside. I'm going to be showing some love to Keely Ringo here because I think that making the bad move is kind of part of the, it's part of the Trevon Diggs mantra. It's like you make the big plays, but you make the stupid plays too. So you make the big plays, both positive and negative. And I think Keely could be somebody that fits that mold, but also is trained by Trevon to limit the negative and actually be able to boost that positive. Great frame as well. Pick number 27. If I am playing, or if I am the GM of the Buffalo Bills, I'm looking at two guys, Jackson Smith and Jigba, as well as DeWand Jones. And DeWand, he made such a big amount of progress this offseason. I do love giving him the nod here. Also, I know I'm taking away from the Bengals. I'm also taking him away from the Chiefs. So for me, I think you're getting a 2-for-1. Pick number 28. If I'm sitting here and I am the Bengals, I don't know why it's saying you need defensive interior. Kalijah is my defensive interior too. So that's kind of cool. I don't think an edge rusher, besides at the Eagles pick, is going to go. And maybe actually at the Chiefs pick as well. So we might see that Felix as well as BJ Ojolari do come off the board. My next highest player is Drew Sanders and then Nolan Smith. So love to see that in there. But besides that, man, it is slim pickings, isn't it? For the Bengals, it's getting a little bit tight. Corner-wise, I think Garrett Williams would be a really cool pick. I do like Garrett Williams a lot. He was a top 15 player. I think that's the best value for you guys, but I also just think that tight end might be the best way to go. I don't really have a tight end one, to be fair. I like Luke Musgrave, and I think that would be a really fun option for the team because I think Luke, I got to see, who do I have ranked as my number one tight end? I do have Luke Musgrave. As you guys can see, I have 4 tight ends literally lined up back to back to back to back. I think that it really depends on what you want to do. I like Luke Musgrave's upside, but I'll go after the blocking style of Michael Mayer. I'll go after the blocking style. If there's a tight end I'll take in the first, it might be Mayer just because I know he's going to be similar to Pat Freiermuth, and that's a very consistent player in the NFL. Pick number 29, I'm still looking at a high-powered, high-weight edge rusher, and to me, I don't have any of those in my top 32. Tuli Tuipulotu might be a guy who I would sneak into that 29 spot, but his eval is actually coming today or tomorrow, so we'll see about that. Again, this is a weird spot for me. Running back is potentially an option depending on how the case goes for Alvin Kamara, because I do know that I think he was indicted, and shout out to y'all for giving me some information on that. I'm going to give Jackson Smith and Jigba, though. I think that's the best option. Getting a big wide receiver, pairing him up with Chris Olave. I kind of forgot he was on the board still, so good option there at 29. Injury history, never really being the number one receiver on his team, even though, yes, he led the team in yards with Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. That's not always a signifier. I don't know. It's not always something that signals that you're a wide receiver one. Sometimes the defense takes away other options, leaving you open. I'm not saying that is necessarily the case, but I also do, with my eyes, see that he's not as good as Chris Olave or Garrett Wilson or Mecca Buka or Marvin Harrison Jr. But then again, the two guys who are in the NFL are pretty much like top 20, top 15 receivers. Could just be he doesn't look very good comparatively to them. So that's fair. Pick number 30. I think I do want at this point to potentially get Kalijah Cansey, who I do have him actually relatively high. I don't think I pushed him up as much as I should have, but I have him at 52. I do have other players, especially edge rushers, higher. And I do think getting an edge rusher, not a bad idea, and I'm going to be going after BJ Ojolari, my number 7 player in the class. I think he's absolutely phenomenal. Josh Sweat is there for one more year, so another guy who's going to be eating up that cap. You're going to need to get younger and more cheap at positions that are high cost because Jalen's going to get that cash. And then at pick number 31, I am considering Kalijah Cansey here. I do not have Brian Breezy, I believe, in my top 5 defensive interiors. Of course, this is a situation that I might be comfortable with him going to. Long arms. He just has a really bad tackle percentage. He has 30-something% missed tackle. That's like really, really bad. Dude misses 1 in 3 tackles. So that's not even counting the tackles that are not made, like where he's pretty much just like lunging and preparing to like try to tackle somebody. Like that's where he should be making the tackle and just whiffs on it. So definite concern there. Definite concern with his processing as well. He has a bigger size than Kalijah. He is not also 6'5" instead of potentially 5'11". So for me, I'm going to be actually going Brian Breezy to end off the first round. And that's going to be the video. So yeah, I'm going to try to squeeze everything in here. We can't, unfortunately, but that's going to be essentially all the picks right there. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. Yes, I do know this is not realistic. It was not meant to be. I just wanted to change things up a little bit and, make it more fun for you as well as for me. So thank you guys again. See you on the far side. Peace.